call on you in a minute. I'm sure they'll ask some questions. For those that arrived a little bit on the late side, I'm going to place this clipboard back on the table. If you want to sign in, if you want to speak, you'll be welcome to. But at this point, I'm going to call on the first person that signed in this morning, and that is Mary Ann Chamberlain. Please come forward and ask your questions. And out of respect for everyone that's here today, if we can be in a concise way with your questions, and if someone has asked a question that is very similar to your concerns, maybe move it to a different question if you could, so we can have as many answers as we can. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. My name is Mary Ann Chamberlain. I'm retired principal of Cox's Creek Elementary School. I'm a landowner in Nelson County, and my family has farmed in Nelson County for 8 generations. After last fiscal court meeting, Mr. Ice told me a story about my grandfather, Joe Sorrell. He said that one time Papa Joe said, you know, there's going to come a time in this country when good water will be scarce. And my Uncle Albie, who was in his 90s, relaying this to Mr. Ice, said, you know, I thought he was just an old man talking, but now I know he's telling the truth. He's telling the truth, and we're there, and we're there now. So I'm here today to talk to you about how these natural gas liquids can ruin our water supply. Natural gas liquids, or NGLs, have never crossed through Nelson County before. Now I know there's thousands of miles of pipeline in the country, but these NGLs have never passed through Nelson County before. They're considered hazardous substances, and they require high pressure and low temperatures to remain in their liquid state. They're highly flammable, and their vapor is heavier than air. When it's released into the water, most of the natural gas liquids will float to the surface and evaporate, but the part that doesn't remains to travel into the groundwater. Now I think the company's chosen the wrong state to travel through, and I'll tell you why. Kentucky is one of the most famous karst areas in the country. Of course, a karst is a cave or a sinkhole, a spring, an underground stream, and a large amount of our prime farmland in Kentucky has karst underneath it. There's a honeycomb underneath of our ground. The state geologist told me this week. He said, this just like a honeycomb under there, and he said, when something goes in there that's not supposed to be there, it travels fast because there's a lot of water under there, and there's a lot of hollow spaces under there. So I asked Jim Cobb, the state geologist in Kentucky, what would happen if these NGLs leaked into a sinkhole or a spring, and he replied, the karst system will take centuries to be cleaned up. He said that subsurface liquids can travel a long way in a short amount of time in limestone. So something that happens over in Chaplin can be happening, it can happen right over in another part of the county very quickly. The presence of sinkholes and caves opens up the possibility of contamination of the water. Now Simpson Lake, where Bardstown gets its water, is fed by karst springs. I know this because my grandfather owned the old McKay place, which is most of where Simpson Lake is now. And when I was a child, he would say, come on, Mary Ann, come on, everybody. Let's get in the car and let's go over to the old McKay place. And we would pile in the cars and go over there, and there would be springs everywhere. He'd dip his water up in his hand and take a drink, and so would we, and it was clean water. And now we get our water from a clean place. But what would happen if all of a sudden benzene and some of these chemicals that are in NGLs go spreading through, and then out of those springs that feed Simpson Lake come substances maybe we don't even know are there for a while? What if there's a rupture or a leak in one of those pipelines like happened in March in Parachute Creek, Colorado? Williams Company owned pipeline, leaked for several weeks before anybody knew about it. I have some articles here from the Associated Press about that. I've given them to the magistrates. One of the Williams Company people said unless leaked liquid natural gas or oil would have come up to the surface or a pipeline lost pressure, there's no other way, to my knowledge, to know if there's a leak. And this one had been happening for a while. If the water's contaminated, maybe someone will bring in gallon jugs of water for us to drink. How long could they do that? And then what about the livestock that need water? When a cave roof collapses, a sinkhole forms. A sinkhole under a pipeline could cause leaks that would allow natural gas liquids to escape and seep into the groundwater. Special attention should be paid, engineers say, to pipeline routing in such at-risk areas as cleanup and remediation in karst areas is essentially impossible. Maybe the pipeline won't leak in your lifetime, but what about the lifetime of your children or your grandchildren? Is this the legacy that we want to leave them? Now I have just a little letter from Gail Hart. She's a landowner here. She said, fellow Nelson County citizens, I have work on Tuesdays. I could not be here. However, a question of another pipeline in our community is of great importance to me. My advice to those considering to agree to the pipeline is simple: don't. At first, the money sounds good. After all, the pipeline will be underground and out of sight. But consider this: you're basically selling your land forever and giving strangers permission to come across your land to check or mow. And she says, your property is your biggest financial asset. Don't give it away to a company that will use it to benefit no one in your county or even your country. Now, I know these gentlemen work for the investors of the Williams Company. That's their job, to make money for those investors. I also know these people over here, and I know who they work for. They work for us. They work for the citizens of Nelson County. They work for the land and the water and the clean air in this county. And we appreciate the work you do.
Marion, you were well prepared. Thank you for that. If we could call on the next speaker, Sonia Mauser. Anapi? And she's done her research. I know, I've talked to her on the phone. Again, I will try to remind all of our speakers not to be as repetitive. If there's another new subjects, keep it moving, please.
You got it.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sonia Mauser Anapit. I'm sure you've heard of the Mausers before. I'm Mike Mauser's daughter and Joetti Mauser's granddaughter. I'm from New Haven. My family is farming that land for a long time. We're also landowners there in Kentucky, and I recently had the opportunity to purchase some land in the outside of New Haven, 90 acres with my dad and a few friends. And I just found out about a week ago about this natural gas liquids pipeline that the Bluegrass Pipeline Company wants to put in. The survey line is currently about 100 yards from my property line. So I know that they've talked to you a little bit about their company, but I've done some research and I thought I'd share it with you guys today. Now, first of all, we know that, as they said, the Bluegrass Pipeline is a joint venture of Williams and Boardwalk. Williams, of course, as they said, is based out of Oklahoma, and they started back in the 1900s. And their business is interstate natural gas pipelines, midstream gathering and processing of natural gas and natural gas liquids. Now, they've also created a spin-off company called WPX Energy. Now, according to Boardwalk's website, they have main offices in Texas and Owensboro, Kentucky. They have 6 subsidiaries that they are currently operating, and they have changed ownerships 4 times. Williams and Boardwalk is a very wealthy company, and I have actually a map of how much money they're valued at. They're publicly traded stocks, and as of last week, they were worth about $50 billion. So this is a very, very wealthy company. So we know that they're really wealthy, and they say that they have a lot of pipeline. So what I want to tell you is what I've found. Boardwalk states on their website that they operate 14,410 miles of interconnected natural gas pipeline. But you know, they actually only have 240 miles of natural gas liquid pipeline. Now, Williams has about 15,000 miles of interstate natural gas pipeline, but it appears that they only have 1,000 miles of natural gas liquid pipeline. So my question arises, it doesn't seem that they're very experienced with this natural gas liquid pipelines. How familiar are they with the dangers? And I'm sure you all have heard recent reports of violations, explosions, but I'm just going to touch on those really briefly. According to the naturalgaswatch.org records, it seems that Williams and its companies have a history of serious natural gas pipeline violations and recent accidents. 2008, Transco Pipeline, owned by Williams, had a natural gas explosion in Virginia. June 2011, they were fined. In December 2011, there was a natural gas rupture in Alabama. March of 2012, there was a compressor station that exploded in Pennsylvania. March of 2012, there was a fine. December of 2012 through early January of 2013, there was a natural gas liquid leak in Colorado, and that later was found to have contaminated the groundwater and the soil. In March of 2013, in West Virginia, there was a natural gas rupture. And most recently, last week, in Louisiana, there was an explosion with the Williams liquid plant that killed 2 workers, and the plant was in the midst, according to recent reports, of an expansion. So I have a lot of concerns. I have all kinds of concerns about their safety and their accident. And what I've actually found, and we're going to hand out some of these to you guys and they're available in the back. This actually comes from Boardwalk themselves, Williams themselves. This was printed in 2011, and it says natural gas liquids, what you need to know. And these are great handouts to get. So, the natural gas liquid pipelines, they say they're monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from their state-of-the-art pipeline control center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's about 800 miles away, or a 12-and-a-half-hour drive. So my question is, if my friend is out there in the field, bush hogging or combining, how in the world are they going to let him know that quickly? Well, they also tell you under here how to recognize a leak. And it's right under here. I'm just reading what it says. The only indication for small leaks may be the appearance of frozen ground above the pipeline. So if my friend is out on his combine and he sees a leak, he might see a little bit of frozen ground. So what is he supposed to do? In the event, actions to take in the event of a leak. In the event of a leak from a natural gas liquid pipeline, all forms of ignition must be turned off immediately. So he's got to turn off his tractor or his combine or his bush hog. He cannot smoke. He cannot turn on any electric motors or gasoline engines. He cannot start cars or trucks. He cannot turn on lights. If a natural gas leak is suspected, he must leave the area immediately on foot, upwind, uphill, and upgrade to try to gain higher ground. There it is, right there. Because igniting a vapor cloud of natural gas liquid, which is colorless and odorless, could result in explosion causing injury, destruction of property, and even death. Now, what I want to leave you with is this. And I'll pass these out too, if anybody wants to see them. I think you guys might have a few copies of there. And we'll just hand these around too. Okay.
By the way, I want to interrupt. She's a lot like our grandpa, Joe Eddy. Everybody knows Joe Eddy. When he gets on something, he gets on something. That's a compliment.
Thank you. What this is right here is just a natural gas pipeline that exploded, okay? This is afterwards. This is just natural gas on explosion. This is a Transco company that's owned by Williams. This happened in 2008 in Virginia. This caused a 34-foot wide by 15-foot deep crater with a burn zone of 1,125 feet in diameter. There were 23 families that had to leave their homes. There were 2 houses that were destroyed, and there were 5 injuries. And this is another picture too. This is after they leave. This is what you have. So with that, and with not knowing what a natural gas liquid pipeline could actually do to us, and knowing that if something did happen, it could be catastrophic, I just hope someday that when I look back, and my little kids, I have 3, who hopefully will get this land that I bought with my dad and my friends, that they will actually learn to love this land as much as I have and as much as my family have. And with natural gas liquid pipeline, it seems that the dangers could be catastrophic. And is this really something that we want to expose our family, our friends, and our future generations to? And I don't think we want to allow them and this natural gas pipeline to run through our farms, our fields, our land, now or ever. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call on Marion Bischoff. Marion, I've never seen you in front of a microphone before.
I don't work very well.
I'm teasing.
Okay, I'm Marion Bischoff here, landowner in Nelson County, and I've been approached several times by fellow Lord Mark Tyler, something like that. He's wanting to come on wanting permission to come on to do it.
Sir?
Yeah, an archaeological and a environmental study survey. And so far, I haven't been willing to sign any kind of papers to allow that to happen. And I really appreciate what the first 2 people that got up here and said. They kind of hit on. I come unprepared. The question I've got for the pipeline people is, what in the world is in it for the landowner, other than devaluing the value of the property when you come through? That property's going to be worthless to anybody, period. You pay a little money for something that you don't want. For this eminent domain, that is absolute BS, period. I can understand it for a 4-lane highway, or a big Corps of Engineer water retard or something like that, that is good for the general public. This line serves one purpose only: profit for who owns it, period. What are we going to get up? Now, if we were going to get a monthly revenue or something out of that, for as long as that pipeline's in operation, I can understand that a little bit. The property I own says Virgin Woods on it. I might cut a tree. Under no conditions will I cut a live tree. I'll cut a dead one to burn firewood. If somebody wants to come across some of this virgin woods that I own, that's when a real fight's going to start. It's not going to end. I'm just telling you how it is. I'll cooperate, but I want to know what's in this for the landowners, other than nothing, and running value property.
I should speak on that.
Yeah. Period. I know y'all want to build a pipeline. You can't hang it in the air. You can only come across people's land that they work for hard all their life in most cases. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. You want to address what the pipeline company typically pays for property? Is there a set dollar figure? Is there any royalties for the future, like Marion was speaking of? Of course, some people wouldn't. Money's not the issue here. I just cut to the chase. But I would ask you to address that, because that was a good question.
the negotiations with each individual landowner, as you all well know, every property is distinct and unique. And so the location of the pipeline on that property, the value of the property, it runs the gamut. And so we would identify, essentially the negotiations for an easement is really begin with whatever the current value of the property is. And we go from there. So, and we look at the amount of acreage that is taken up by the pipeline. Those of you who've been asked for survey permission, we talk about basically a 50-foot wide permanent easement and another 50 feet for temporary workspace in order to construct the pipeline in the beginning. And then that temporary workspace goes away after construction. So depending upon the value of the property and the amount of either workspace and or permanent easement that is taken up, then that's essentially the foundation and the basis for the valuation.
A typical utility companies in our area uses $1 per foot. We did some, here recently with a fiber optic, and they have a set $1 per big foot they start with. Do you have, does your company have $1? We've heard a lot of numbers thrown around.
Well, good luck, because we don't have a number at this point, because we don't know where the route goes. We're still trying to find, a contiguous route of landowners that are willing to allow us to have survey permission.
Rob, some of your agents working, I guess a third-party company probably working with you are throwing out a number, so you'll be aware of it. And that's $24.
I'm sorry, and just so you know, actually, the maps of your proposed route actually have been handed out. If anybody would like to see those, I actually have some lists of those that I got from landowners who have been approached by the land representatives. So I'll leave those in the back if anybody wants to take a look at it. I know they don't know for sure, but I guess maybe you have an idea.
When I talked to Mr. Hunt out there, he said it could be a mile or so either way. So that really had been. But I was wondering on the dollar amount. I've heard $24 from agents. Now whether that's a real number or not, but let's move on.
Yeah, we don't, as far as we have a website that's up, I think it was up as of last week, bluegrasspipeline.com. You'll be able to find a map of the counties that the line, as we think it is now, would be located. But it's a moving target because we don't have the permissions that we need in order to be able to set that route. I'll be talking further to our contract folks about dollar values.
Yeah.